Hey guys, thank you guys so much for joining our YouTube live. We are Unconventional Norms. We share stories of people who have found success or on the path of finding success in their own unconventional way. At Oxford, we have seen this common culture to have to get perfect grades, to always compare ourselves to others, and even to get to the top college to reach success. And we want to change this culture to see that there are many different ways to find success.
All right, so just to start off, this episode, we as you can see, we don't have a guest, and it's just us, our team right here. So we want to start off by, well, we just want to have a chill time where we can share our stories, share our insights. So I think the question I want to start off with is, what inspired you guys, or like us guys, to start Unconventional Norms, like specifically for each person? Because I know each of us started it for a different reason. So.
Ooh.
Yeah. I can share.
Yeah, you can share.
I got an idea already. So, if you guys don't know, my name's Ethan. And I wanted to, I wanted to be in Unconventional Norms because I wanted to hear the stories of different people. I like getting to know people from all different walks of life, and so I wanted to join Unconventional Norms to do more listening than talking, if that makes sense. I wanted to hear what people have to say.
That's dope. Okay, I'll go next. Okay, so I was the one that actually brought it up to, like, of course, like you both, and then we added like Jason and Chung as editors. So I think the reason why I wanted to propose this idea is probably stemming from like my history of mental health. Having to always compare myself to others, having to think that I need perfect grades, all this stuff. Like, I realized how much, like, how negatively it can affect your mental health and just in general. And just like, yeah. So that's why I just wanted to bring you two on here. And I think at the start, it was going to be mainly just about like, we were just going to get Oxford students, I think. But then I think we eventually expanded out to be like, I think we said originally that we wanted high school students, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Just got bigger over time.
Yeah.
So I think what happened is when Justin first brought up the idea that we should like have a podcast and address all of the issues and like stigmas around like the Oxford society, I think that like it wasn't really clear in my mind that those stigmas really existed. But when Justin like brought it up and he pointed out like the having to get perfect grades, like having to go to a top college, it kind of made me realize that like we're surrounded by this like common culture of like you have to do something, like there's only one path to success. And I think that spreading that message is like really important, and it can like it like really changed my perspective on like, do I really need to be like the ideal student that Oxford is like outlined, or can I like start to explore what I love? So I think that kind of just like overall idea kind of inspired me to get on board and get on this journey.
And that's where we
got for sure. No, you go.
The name to the Unconventional Norms could be getting straight A's, going to a good college. The unconventional part is these unconventional stories of like different people.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. I agree a lot with Yash, and I joined the team actually this week. I think it was like 3 days ago, because Chow wanted me as an editor. And honestly, I'm here right now and I'm talking, but I'm actually kind of nervous because it's scarier when you're on screen and everything. Like, my heart's beating, whatever. But the big thing, I agree with a lot with Yash. We go to a school, and I think this school is very academic driven. Everyone's forced to do, not forced, but very highly pressured to do extracurriculars and get straight A's. People get really sad over B's, and I think that's not the right way, because it's not, I think it doesn't determine the success you can have in the future. So
yeah. So I was talking to my brother, and he told me that like his grade, and I think Brittany's grade too, or like class of 2019, like they did not have the toxicity that we have right now. Like I think we are just like, well, no, I think it's just because of class of 2022. Like, just in general, like we just are just so toxic now. Like, our environment is just so like toxic.
Mm-hmm. There's like it's all in our head, right?
As time has gone.
Yeah.
You can get like more and more cutthroat too. Like with people seeing like their classmates more as like competitors more than like peers to like learn from.
Yeah. But like no one ever goes up to you and says, you got an F on your test, you're bad. Like it's just like a subconscious thing. It just happens. That's crazy.
Jason.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So no, definitely I believe like going to a school like Oxford where like things are really academically driven. People don't question like, why things are so academically driven, why they strive for the A, why they want to get into a good college. They just know that that's like first what their parents tell them. It's like a commitment that's like pre-instilled in them, and then going to the school it like further like exacerbates like the problem of them having to follow that norm and never asking themselves like why they want to do these things, you know. So yeah, I wanted to hop on because I mean I felt like I could have or I felt like it was a very good message to get out, especially because like I mean like my friends and myself like dealing with the same problems, you know, like norms like that and standards that you have to live up to. And so yeah, and I wanted to flex my creative muscles a little and
For sure.
Okay, so I saw in the chat Justin Lin said like, is quarantine helping out with pressure? For me, definitely yes. I'm so much happier because like I was talking to so like Brittany yesterday, and I was like, I realized I'm much more happier because one, I don't have to like be surrounded by it. Like when I say toxicity, like I realize like I'm not like to me like I'm also toxic because like we're part of this environment. It's not the student's fault. It's just like the environment that we're in, and like we always like perceive everything negatively. Like we think of Oxford like this kind of like we always look at the negatives in things.
Yeah.
And I think like being surrounded by like kind of stepping away from that, and also like to me like bro, I'm like so in love with Gary Vee. Like that man like brings so much positivity in my life. Like that's crazy. So I think like those two are the big things that kind of like got me out of that those pressures. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. Oh, no, you go.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, so quarantine, definitely been a very, very interesting experience. Definitely a huge learning curve, but like in like the total opposite direction of academics. I've been like really, really trying to learn and research like more about my future, like really questioning like, you know, why am I like trying to strive for this and that in school? And like Gary Vee is one of the people I've looked at. Also Joel Marion, and this guy named Richard Yu on YouTube. Really, yeah, really trying to um, just instill like more purpose into why I'm doing things, learning things that are totally outside of the academic atmosphere. It's been really fun, really relaxing. Needed that, yeah. So
Yeah, I hate how like when we were in school, like in session, school takes up so much time in the day. It's like you don't have any other time for yourself. So like I only had 5 classes last year, so I got out at like 11:15 each day. So I got to spend time chilling. But like quarantine, since there's just so much time on my hands, I feel like the first few months I was dealing with this like need to always be working on something. Otherwise, I don't feel productive. I feel like I'm wasting my time. But
Right.
then like over time, I learned like it's important to like enjoy your free time too. So I've been
And
studying hard. I've been studying Valorant hard.
I think what goes along with that is that you realize that like not just like studying and like I don't know like doing SAT prep, like stuff like that. Like there's things besides that that can lead to like more success in terms of like finding like what you like and like you love. And like last week we had no a couple weeks ago we had Justin come on the podcast and talked about like pursuing your passion like after like you just like the only way to pursue your passion is if you like first discover what it is. So I think that this time has been like good to like explore like who I am, what I like, and that kind of thing, and just kind of learn more about myself. And I think that that can be really helpful for the
Yeah,
future
so
too.
like I'm going off of this idea of kind of we don't feel productive when we play games, we talk to friends, all that stuff. Like I fall into that too. But I remember like something again with something Gary Vee said, it's like talking to friends, doing these things that kind of relaxes you. That's in a way it's productive because it's productive for your mental health. Like we can't be working like all the time. And I think that's something that we as Oxford students always forget. Like we always like, we study like all like every single time, or we need you like everything every single time for a resume for whatever the reason is, and we forget to like kind of like allow ourselves to just relax. And I think that's another thing why I love quarantine so much, because I can get to relax. I don't have to like burn myself out every single day. So it's definitely been super helpful for me.
Yeah, it's like oh no.
Oh, so watching the podcast the last one with Justin Lin, where he was like, he said like he read this book or something, and it was like the very first piece of advice was get enough sleep to operate the next day, right?
Right.
And I thought that was really funny because this year I really focused on instilling it into myself. It was like, I don't care how much schoolwork there is, I need to get at least 7. Usually it's supposed to be 8, but like I gave like an hour of slack away. I was like at least 7, because if I don't get 7, like things are gonna start crashing down, and like I'm gonna start like performing worse. And so yeah, that was really interesting.
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, like sleeping early is hard work. I mean, not hard work, but like it's productive because the next day you get that boost and you're more efficient. But like I don't know, I feel like my brain just doesn't register that, and I'm like, nah, if I'm sleeping early, that's lazy, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I remember my sophomore year. Oh man, like 2 or 3 hours of sleep just because I wanted to like crush out like one assignment, because I really didn't want to miss out like an assignment, but then I'd end up like missing it anyway because it was a result of my whole work ethic. Just like, oh, man.
Well, I've been talking about Valorant a lot, but yesterday the closed beta for Valorant went down. But me and my friends woke up at 8 o'clock because it was going down at 9:30. So we woke up at 8 to get in 2 games.
Okay.
See, I'm working hard.
Okay, so describe the failure that you guys have learned the most from. Anybody want to start? Okay, I think I'll start. Like, probably my failure. You guys already know it's my like experience with depression. Definitely, to be honest, I see it as like as a benefit. Like, of course, like I was super extreme. Like hurting myself, trying to commit suicide, all that stuff. And while like of course it was a very extreme, it was very hard for me and my family to handle with. It really opened my eyes and allowed me to. I remember I went to my therapist on it was my first therapy session, and she was like, okay, Justin, you need to cut down on something, on some class, whatever. And I think our target was chemistry, and my brother was like, hey, you need to cut up chemistry. But I was like, but I can push through it, guys. Like I can push through it. And this was during like the part where like I was hurting myself and all that stuff. And I was like, no, I can do it. Like blah blah blah, blah. Because like I don't want to seem like a like weak or something. And it was so hard for me to get out of, because I think it was mainly from track too, because it's like that mindset of, oh, you can't give up or else like you're weak. You have to keep persevering. I definitely got that from track actually. And once I took that step away from it, like it was definitely so helpful, because like I literally just did nothing and it helped me so much, because I realized how burnt out I was. And like not going, like I didn't go to school for 2 weeks and just went to group therapy. That definitely helped too. That was really fun actually, because I just like hung out with like people all the time, and like that was really fun. So definitely like that failure helped teach me a lot, and it actually like I said before, it made me come up with this idea of like proposing this to you guys of this unconventional norms and all that stuff. Yeah.
For sure.
Anyone else?
It's like Socratic seminar.
Maybe not one of my greatest failures, but definitely one that really contributed to opening my eyes, growth, and work ethic was, I would honestly consider all of my sophomore year a failure. The whole year. Okay. I realized like, even though it was definitely a point in my life where I started to begin reflecting and reevaluating, kind of something Justin Lin mentioned last podcast. But it was, you know, why I was doing things, and even though I was stressed because I was like disappointed in myself because of how I was, you know, like failing some classes, and I was like underperforming, and I was it was because I was trying to like prove something, you know, I was trying to like prove something to other people. I was trying to it was just for reasons that were not important, but it was like eating me alive. And so I was lost. And I realized that a lot of the problems didn't lie, because I was being extremely reactive, and I was like putting a bunch of the blame on like, oh, it's just because I hate this class, and like everything's just going terrible. But I had to hold myself accountable for my work ethic, and I had to realize like why I felt like it was an important growth process to at least try and improve. And
Just wondering, do you guys like, so like for example, like going back to the course, like I think I'm always gonna like use Gary Vee as like my reference or something.
yeah,
But
cool.
yeah, like okay, that's the only person I listen to. So he says that like the reason why we like laziness mainly comes from the fact of how we're not passionate about something.
Mhm.
So like I've always wondered, where does discipline come into it? Like is like because from his standpoint, like I hear from what he's saying, it's just all about like the entirety of laziness is because you're just not like you just don't want to do it. But I feel like discipline comes into it, right? Like it plays some part into it, right?
Well, okay, wait. Before we address that, where do you guys think you draw the line between like relaxing and then being lazy about something?
Ooh, that's
Ooh,
that's a hard
crazy.
question.
For me, I thought about this a little bit like during quarantine because I was listening to Joel Marion's podcast and he's talking about how during this time you should be really productive. You should be getting a step ahead of everyone coming out of quarantine, all like a step ahead instead of waiting for normal life to come back. But I think the idea of laziness and being like relaxing is in the eye of the beholder. So if you think that you should be productive in this time, that you feel pressured to do something like research colleges or do SAT prep, then you're gonna feel bad by relaxing and watching shows. But if you, in your head you think that, oh, I want to watch this show because I want to relax, then you'll feel comfortable, you'll feel fine of doing that. I think it's just in the eye of the beholder. Yeah.
So does that mean that laziness stems from like having a goal, but then you like not doing what you're supposed to kind of get there?
Exactly. That's how I view it. Yeah.
I think or like to build off that analogy, it would be like if you're procrastinating on an assignment and then you just keep like watching YouTube, you're like, I don't want to do that assignment, then that's like laziness. But if you say, no, I'm gonna spend an hour doing whatever, like I don't know, watching TV or like playing video games or something, and then after that I'm gonna spend an hour doing the assignment, then that's no longer laziness. You laid out your plan and like you're like you're deliberately relaxing during that.
Right. And
I get you.
I don't know about you guys, but I know that when I put my mind to like, oh, for the next hour, I'm going to be productive and get like a lot of work done. And then I find myself like slacking off, like not like really being productive. I kind of feel like guilty about it because I'm like, well, I should be doing this, but I'm not doing it. So do you guys like feel the same way? Or?
Yeah.
No, I get you. I like, oh no, you can go.
So what like Ethan said about like laying out like time for relaxation, because relaxation is, it's like important to, get your mind in a good state for yourself to be as productive as you can when you work. But for me, like I'm lazy when I start like avoiding my work. It's like relaxing to try and avoid your work instead of like setting time so that you can like refresh your brain to go back to it. So like I guess when it becomes a method of like, or like a scapegoat to like try and avoid your work, that's when it becomes laziness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Okay, new topic. Let's talk about something.
Right. Well, the question was greatest failure, right?
Yeah.
Wait, didn't you say something about like discipline or something? I forgot.
Oh, right.
Yes. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
Wait, can you repeat what your question was, Justin? Sorry.
I think it was, I kind of forgot it too, but it was like, so Gary Vee, he says laziness mainly stems from not wanting to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't really talk about the discipline side of it. Like how much, like, where does like how much of discipline and like whether you don't like it, like word, like how would you weigh them, I guess? I think that's my question.
So is that like, oh yeah, you can go.
No, go.
All right. I think that what like the definition of like what discipline is like going back to what Ethan talked about. Like when you lay out time, like this is my productivity time and this is my relaxation time. Discipline is setting the right amount of like productivity time or like whatever you need, like setting that aside and like sticking to it. I think that's what like discipline entails.
And so when you said how like passion is like really required for you to pursue, like, so like you would only do the things that you like to do, but Gary Vee said this one thing where it was like when he says don't do don't do something that you enjoy, he's saying like it's okay to not enjoy the small steps to get what you want to eventually do in the future, and enjoy that. But to do that, it's going to take some small like victories, some small like commitments that are going to have to require like, you know, like not the most like enjoyment or passion in those like small aspects, but is to eventually achieve that greater goal. So I guess you have to keep constantly reevaluating to ask yourself if it's worth it and if it like truly does achieve that goal.
Yeah, so I remember like I was watching a Tea with Gary Vee episode, and I think this girl was talking about how she had a passion for photography, but she didn't have enough finance for it. So she, like Gary Vee told her, hey, you need to go to a low end job, like a 9 to 5 job, like just waiting tables, doing whatever, and you may not like it, but it's gonna get you enough money to then follow your passion.
Yeah.
And then and then I think kind of discipline comes into a factor, because let's say you have a 9 to 5 job, and then like after, like he always talks about like after you have that 5 to 10 time frame where people are relaxing, people are Netflixing, chilling, but you could be working, and like people are working from like until like 2. To me, I don't get that. Like I don't get how people have like enough like energy and be able to do that. Like I don't think to be able to like right after you get off your job, like straight like working, and you just have like no energy, and then just like go work on your computer for like the next like 5 hours, just like grinding on your passion. That's so crazy to me.
I feel like it goes back to that obsessiveness, you know. So it's like when you when you really like something, you know, it's gonna naturally kick in. You don't like eventually like that discipline. It's like you don't even have to like worry about like, oh yeah, I gotta stay disciplined. Maybe like some days. So it's like, you know, it's important for me to do this now so that I can achieve what I want, because you know that's my vision. But you're just gonna be so obsessive about it. It's like you're not even challenging yourself to really stay up to 2. It's like you want to, because you like really want like that end goal. You know, being relentless, you know.
Because like I think if you force yourself to stay up to 2, then it's to the point where it's passion anymore, and you're just pressuring yourself to do it. That's almost like the studying for school type thing. Like when you study for a test, you stay up till 2 studying for a test. No one does that because they want to, because they care about the subject matter, so they're like super invested and they want to stay up till 2. But like when you stay up till 2 actually following your passion, like it doesn't feel like 2 a.m. The time just comes.
Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure.
Maybe your passion is just playing Valorant. That's something. That's seriously something that's like so hard for me to like think of too, because like my parents, I think just parents in general are like, games are like just like a waste of time. But bro, like games can, like there's esports now, like that's so crazy. Like like it could be your job if you're like good enough for it.
Yeah, I feel like one instance in my life where I could like apply that like principle of obsessiveness. So I could not stay up to like during the school year, right? Like I said, I would not dip under 7 hours of sleep, right? Just to get some assignments done. Like if it's a missing assignment, it's a missing assignment. Over quarantine, when I made that commercial, I willingly, like I had to stop myself from working because I was about to only get 1 hour of sleep. Like I really had to, because that's I didn't even like care about like how much sleep I was losing at that point, because you just become so obsessive, and it's like such a self-rewarding process of you continuing to improve, or you continuing to get closer to that end goal being like that commercial that I wanted to make. And like I just didn't want to put it away. Like that's the obsessiveness that you're talking about, that you would hope to achieve when it comes to, you know, working towards your passion and your vision.
And I think like these are things that like Oxford we don't talk about. Like all we talk about is grades. All we talk about is SAT scores, comparing ourselves with other people, instead of just like really asking like, hey, like what are you doing to like pursue your passion or something. where do you think that stems from? I'm thinking it's just from parents and just like because everyone else is doing it, like you just feel like that's the right thing to do. I remember like I would like every single year, I would start out by saying, hey, you know what? I'm not gonna care about grades. But then eventually I start caring about grades because I see everyone else, hey, what'd you get on this test? What'd you get on this test? What'd you get on this test? And I'm just like, oh, so this like, but surround your like when people say like you become what you surround yourself with, that is so true.
Yeah.
Like if you like we become like this environment.
For sure, for sure. I felt like
Okay.
for me, oh sorry, yeah.
Oh no, go. I was gonna talk about what Justin Lin said.
Yeah, so just little to add on, I felt like when I started like caring about school and like wanted to do better on tests, it's like this was for me. It could be for a majority of people, maybe not, but a lot of my decisions to want to improve in school, it was like more because they were like actions to justify the intentions and the priorities that my parents had for me. So it was like everything that I was doing, it was like not for my priorities because when you're young, you don't really understand like a sense of like having a good priorities or intentions. So it's like kind of like doing what your parents are following. And because my dad would feel like it's like the easiest way and the best way to make a good living if you're like doing well in school and stuff. So that's why like me doing well in school was following what he was saying, his priorities, and I didn't consider mine until like really late.
Okay. Let's so what Justin Lin said. So the first step towards change is awareness. So how do you guys plan to change the environment at Oxford? I think like we already are right now. Like
Yeah, because
Yeah.
because I don't really think that you can like change the environment overnight. Like we're doing what we can to kind of like bring it to light, because I know that like before we started this, I like did not realize at all like all the stigmas and stuff that were surrounding us. Like when Justin first said like you have to get perfect grades and have to go to a top college, that was like it kind of opened my eyes to like see that like that really was there and that stigma really does exist. So I think that
yeah, for sure. Especially because like at a school like Oxford where you literally like test to get in, and like I remember being in like 7th and 8th grade, like the conversation going on, it's like, oh, what school you want to go to? I was like, at least an Ivy school, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like I remember there was the 8th grade learning skills class where like Miss Hale would like ask everyone what like colleges they want to go to. So like you'd write it down on the whiteboard. Everyone's writing down an Ivy school, and then like Miss Hale's like, maybe like one of you. And then like everyone was so shocked. It was like, what? How could you say that? You're just destroying my dream right there, man. But I mean, yeah, that's realistic. But
Yeah.
just because you don't get into an Ivy, I mean, like, it's fine as long as it's geared towards your vision. So, yeah.
I think one goal for changing Oxford, or one thing I tried to do is I don't want the default conversation starter to be like about classes. Like when you see someone in the halls, I feel like the first thing people say is like, yo, what'd you get on that test? Or what was on that test? Or something like that. Oh, like, yeah, I mean, I know like most of the time when you talk with someone, you talk about stuff you have in common. But if like school is the only thing we have in common, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of sad.
And I feel like that plays in part with the Oxford culture in general too, because like when I found out that like there's like a lot of people in our grade that like do like stuff and have like passions that I had no idea about. Like for example, I know that when we were like brainstorming like potential people we can interview, I know Ethan said that someone in our grade like really likes archery and they do that like every week. And I was like so shocked. I was like I never knew that, because the only conversation I've ever had with that person is like, oh, like what do you do in this class like on this day? And it's like the only thing like we resort to talking to, because we don't really know a lot about most of the people.
And I fall into this as well, and kind of off topic, but I feel like we have the tendency to kind of judge people as more or less, I guess, intelligent. I don't know if that's the right word, based on how well we do in school. Like that's it, because like that's all, like what you guys said, that's all we have in a relation with. Like, but of course, like there are people that may not be good at school, but are good at something else, like in completely street smart, but not, of course, like book smart, and doing their own thing very like in the background without any of us knowing, but we see like, oh, he's getting bad grades, so we think that he's stupid or something. But he
I agree.
he'd be like
Yeah.
For like a school that excels so much in academics, number 2 in the high school, I've never heard so many people call themselves dumb, right? I'm so dumb.
That's
I'm naturally
true.
dumb. I wish I was smart as you. I wish I was naturally smart. Like, it's no sense.
And I feel like
Yeah.
if we did not compare ourselves to people that we feel are smarter than us, like we'd think that we'd have like better self-esteem, like feel better about ourselves too.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like I see people that are like maybe not, like I'm not sure, but maybe they're not working as hard as me, or like I'm working like super hard and then like I'm not able to do as well as someone else. But for me, like if I didn't know how well other people are doing, like it might have been fine for me. But as soon as I find out that like other people are like excelling so much, then it makes you kind of feel like I could have done more, or I'm not as good, or like those kind of feelings.
Yeah, it's like the have you guys ever heard of like the big fish little pond, and then like it like,
Yeah.
or like,
no, I haven't.
so it's like say it's like a small pond with like small fish, and then there's like a relatively bigger size fish, so he's gonna feel better about himself, he's gonna perform better in whatever he's doing. But you put that same size fish in a pond with bigger fish, he's gonna feel worse about himself because he's comparing himself to all these other
Right.
fish. Even though he's just as capable, he's like underperforming because of that pressure. So yeah.
Mm.
I
And,
feel like
wait, you go, Ethan, you go.
okay. I feel like us comparing ourselves with each other, like comparing is not good, but like being surrounded by successful people could be good if we use this tool like
Mhm.
properly. So
Mm-hmm.
there was this one quote, I don't remember who said it, but it was like, if I'm the smartest person in the room, then I'm in the wrong room. So it's like there's always someone that could give you advice or could help you out and who could like impart wisdom or like teach you something. But I feel like we don't take advantage of that. Instead, we just see, oh, they're better than me, I'm not going to be as good as them, rather than saying, oh, they're better than me, how can I learn from them? Or like, what can I take away
So
from
it's like trying to fix your mindset more into like a growth mindset instead of staying
Okay,
like a
so
fixed mindset.
I think we did a really good job of like identifying the problem, identifying like the culture at Oxford right now. And going back to Justin Lin, he said, how are we exactly gonna enact change? Like, we have this podcast and we're dishing it out to people, but I think at the same time people need to be receptive to the information and actually want to change that about them. Like, you can't enforce change to someone who doesn't want to be changed, right? So other than putting this podcast out, we can also lead by example, and I think that would be another way, but that's just another long-term kind of change.
And like building off of what Trung said, leading by example, I know that even though we're surrounded by so many people with so many like diverse interests and so many like similarities to us, I feel like in a lot of cases, like forming groups with like people you have like common interests with and like getting something done that you love is like so difficult at Oxford because of the culture. Like when we first started this podcast, right? Like I'm sure like Justin, it was like hard to identify like who you would want to like partner with you and kind of do this with you, because at Oxford it's kind of like you do your own thing, and like asking people for help or like joining efforts with people was like kind of so it's like not the norm.
Nice.
Really? No, I like, to be honest, like in terms of like, I didn't think that like joining with people is not the norm. I didn't know that, because I just thought like, I don't know, I just feel like people are down to help each other. But again, that's just me. Okay, so like going off of what Trung said, I think I think ASB has a very, very big role to play in it. I think like not in general just ASB. I think just all the clubs actually. Like we have the option. Like I remember, like Gary V, he said something so powerful. He was talking about like the like coronavirus. She said like we can always look at the negatives. It like businesses, like people are unfortunately dying. Businesses are like going out of business because of course like they can't like do business basically. But we can also look at the positives. Like we have so like like in the Oxford culture, I think in general we always our first tendency is to look at things negatively. That can be shown in Oxford, that can be shown in ASB, that can be shown in general. And the harder thing is to like literally see something and find the positives in it, and that's so hard because we're surrounded like with like negativity. Always negativity is always louder. Yeah.
You feel like there's a connection between like that and like all the so yeah, that like fixed mindset, that looking at the negatives, and the school's like spirit, you know. Like I feel like a lot of people at Oxford, like the more you are in Oxford, it's like you gradually like start to think like the school is less spirited, like without even like experiencing it. It's because it's kind of like instilled into you. Like I don't know.
I think
Do
Justin
you
Lim
feel
said
like
something. Oh, sorry, my fault. But there's another.
Wait, go ahead.
Let me see. What he says he gets where we're coming from. There's two sides to the coin. What about changing the pressures that faculty and staff place on us that may not be constructive?
Well, I have a question first. It's like built off of this. So we had the mindfulness Tuesdays. We had like the learning skills curriculum that was implemented our year. And like these are tools that were supposed to help us cope with this Oxford pressure. But
Sure.
these were also tools that were utter failures. And like to this day I still wonder why. Like what went wrong with those?
Sure.
No, okay, mindfulness Tuesday. It's seriously because it's different. We don't like change. We don't like change. Like that. Like that's my opinion. Like we do. Like we want to keep everything the same. Like and like it's same with learning skills. I don't know because it's a program, but I just think that we just don't like change. Like, and actually no, actually it's part of the program too because like learning skills and like mindfulness. Okay, mindfulness Tuesday. As of now, it's awesome. But before, man, I hated it because all I heard, everybody I heard was like, "Why are we doing mindfulness Tuesday?" And if I were to do it, I'd be like, "Yeah, no one else is doing this." So I could feel kind of weird. So I'm just gonna follow like the bandwagon and just hate it too, even though I don't like it. And then eventually, it's gonna be like, "Man, I do hate it." Like
So,
there's no point to it.
Learning skills, through like TRFs and the Cornell notes and stuff, I know like they were trying to enforce like like reflection and contemplation in your learning, but I just felt like it wasn't like enforced in or like brought in a way that was like or like the students like didn't see it as like helpful to them, and maybe it was because there's like this disconnection between like teacher and student, so maybe they would have like needed to use like closer like sources to like the students that would have had more influence.
And,
yeah.
And I think that kind of those TRFs and like Cornell notes, I feel like when something's like forced upon you like that, like you're not as receptive to it. But if it's more like you learn it like organically, like you experiment with it, like with the Cornell notes, for example, like in a class, you just start taking Cornell notes and you see it like really helping you. I feel like that can drive like more impactful and like substantial change, like for the long term as well.
Right. Yeah, I do agree. I think it's because it felt mandatory. Now it's like, oh man, now I have extra pressure. Now I have to fill out a TRF too.
Exactly.
But like at the root of it, it was a good tool.
Right.
Like the TRF forces you to, instead of like just saying, hey, I need help with math, I don't understand it, you go, okay, I got this far in the math problem, but this is the one step that I'm stuck with. And then you get to pinpoint the parts you're struggling with. They're like good intentions, but because it was mandatory, then it just
I feel like sorry, go.
It's like kind of like the thing, like a parent telling a child, "Hey, you have to do this," and it's like, man, I can do whatever I want. Like you don't like you can't make me do this. And I think that's like kind of like the mindset, I guess. I don't know if that really that's actually a little bit of a stretch, but whatever.
I felt like they should have like explained the why behind TRFs and Cornell notes a little more, and actually like blatantly explained how it would be helpful and impactful, and how it further motivates contemplation and why that's good, and then how it's like connected to you.
Right. And I think that I feel like, especially like the Cornell notes, like I feel like that could be so helpful. But as soon as you see this, like,
You have it. Why do you have it? Why do you have it on you?
you just don't want to do it anymore, no?
Wait, time out. Yash, why do you actually have
I
that
haven't
next
seen that in years, dude.
Yash, why do you have that next to you?
I don't know, man.
Why do you have that next to you? That's so funny.
That's funny.
You
That
just
was
pulled it
funny.
out.
All right. So Justin Lin brings up a good point. He said the reason why they weren't helpful is because it's enforced from the top down, whereas we are in a position to empower students from like a peer-to-peer perspective. So I guess my question would be like, what's some more tangible? Well, like, what are tangible ways that we can encourage other people to like take use of these resources?
It's literally by word of mouth. I think that's just the best thing.
Yeah, I think that completely goes back to what I said about the Cornell notes, right? Like if you organically find out that something works for you, you're more likely like use it in the long term. But when it's like forced upon you, like what Ethan said, like it's not that impactful because it's just something else that you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Like I think like it kind of relates to like the struggle of being in ASB. Like most ASB events, we are in a culture where it's like some ASB events, like for example, like I think lately like lunch activities, all that stuff. Not that many people like it, but ASB members have to try to get their friends to want to do it, and it's like it's definitely hard like for me, I know, because like a lot of like not to like kind of shout out my like or call out my friends, but a lot of them would rather just like kind of play basketball or do something else rather than lunch activities. And I think it's so hard to and I think because it's so hard for me, for like they are so set on like not wanting to do it, it's hard for me to kind of like spread that like, hey, why don't you just try it? So like kind of spread that positivity, because the majority of people are negative about it. Do you guys kind of get what I'm saying? Or
Yeah, for sure.
Like yeah, it's like
I have an example.
It's like
my fault.
Yeah, go for it.
No, go.
Okay, I'll go. So I'll give 2 examples. So this year we had Ryan Ramirez, right? He performed. It was awesome. He's really good. He's really talented, right? He calls everyone to the quad. No one comes. No crowd. No nothing. I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Troy Noka comes, or Stapa. I forget. He comes to perform. Class of 2018, there's a whole group of seniors that come in, and that draws the crowd, and everyone's excited, and then everyone has fun. So I think, again, that goes back to the organic approach, bottom up. You can't force people to come. It just has to be more organic. Yeah.
For sure.
But what sucks is like, for example, like going off of what do we do with RSVP? What is that called?
Oh, the summit.
Summits are useless. Let's be honest here. Summits are kind of like, in my cluster, we mess around because
we got the urinal dividers though. So
that's so true. I remember we like all the boys got so hyped because of that.
Yeah, I feel like anything that's in cluster is in a weird time because, well, I don't know about your guys' cluster. My cluster, like everyone always spends on their phones. So whenever there's an event during cluster, it's like, man, this is impeding on my Brawl Star time.
And I think that ties into the organic approach too, right? Like you're forced to have to fill out those 3 sections of the summit form. So it's just like, I have to do this, not like I get to do this. But when you're like talking to your friends about like, oh, like we could change this, like imagine if like those changes were kind of like brought up and like shown. Like I feel like it's more impactful.
And another thing is, if the popular kid likes it, then a lot of people like it.
Yeah.
Like that's my opinion. Like for example, Richard and Omar talent show. They made that fun because they were funny, and like they like in our grade, they're pretty like, they're known to be like the like, not the popular kid, but like the funny people.
Mm-hmm.
So like if they are supporting it, then it'd be like, then I think a lot of like their friend group would support it, and it's kind of like a ripple effect and their friends will support it, and then it would just keep going and going and going.
Yeah, it's because they're like the people that are like capable of like greater influence like over the student population, instead of like that of like the associated student body or like staff. So that's why students would rather listen to like them, because as like students you're like tied closer to your peers, and like those are that are like more like well respected than just like staff or like the A's people. For sure.
What was I gonna ask? It was something about. Actually, never mind. I forgot it. Dang it. I forgot it. Yeah, let's see.
Does anyone else that's watching have any other questions in the chat? You can just type it in there and we can address it.
Justin Lin's so active. We should give him merch or something.
I know. Dude, we should make merch.
We should have merch.
Make merch. We should have merch.
Get merch.
Oh, that'd be tight, like a mug or something.
No, like a
Mug life.
Like a hoodie?
Or like a hoodie, yeah. Unconventional norms.
Yeah, so I think one question that we didn't look at from Justin Lin, he was like, so this was him talking about discipline, right? He said the day you stop waiting for motivation to start working is the day you become a professional, right? So like I think this is kind of saying like, I've like heard from a great friend of mine before, Kobe Zaw. He says motivation is temporary, right? Because motivation comes and goes, and it's not, and if you're relying on motivation to be the one thing that gets you to work and to be the one thing that gets you towards your vision or whatever you want to achieve, it's eventually going to die out. It's not going to work because motivation is going to come and go. And so discipline is when you start telling yourself like, hey, I have to do this no matter what, because I want to get what I want, instead of like feeling like bits of inspiration here and there.
Well, where does discipline derive from? Like how can we improve our discipline? I think by doing things that are uncomfortable.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know.
Like I think discipline is a skill that you have to practice. So like in my mind, the difference between discipline and motivation, discipline is consistency.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you feel motivated to work out and you'll do it for like one day, but like the next day you might not feel motivated to work out and you don't do it. That's where motivation fails. But discipline is saying, okay, I'm going to work out every day, and then actually working out every day, whether you feel like it or not.
Yeah.
And I think a large portion of being disciplined is having a goal that you're working towards. Because like having that like overall goal like that you're working towards, you can like keep your discipline until you like achieve that goal.
Yeah, but at the same time, even though you have like a big goal, like if you're like chasing that, you have to break it up into smaller achievements.
Right. For sure.
If you're just looking at it like a whole big achievement, kind of like when you're doing homework and you have 7 classes of homework to do, it is going to eat you alive, and you're going to feel so unmotivated to do that homework. But if you break it up, it's like, so this hour I'm going to do homework in this class and this class. So it looks like smaller goals. So you can build that consistency of you working, so you can eventually get to that goal. You're also building mental toughness along the way.
And discipline as well.
Yeah, I think if you're consistent for like a month, then the next month it gets even easier to be consistent.
Because
and then like as you go on,
you've like already built that foundation. And then like also a way to think about it is like you've already built this foundation and you like put so much effort in, and for you to put all that effort in and then like throw it away, it's like it seems like you're gonna have wasted all your time. So the more consistency you've like built like under your belt, the easier it's gonna be to push yourself through the next day.
Right, and I think a really good example of that is I saw this on Hassan Minhaj. He brought like Casey Neistat on, and he said that he put out videos for like 790 or something, like a really big number of videos like straight. And then he asked him like, didn't you ever like want to take a break? Like, why did you do it? Like those kind of questions. And what he said is that at the beginning, he was really struggling to putting out that content. But as soon as he saw like what effect it was having, which came in the form of like views, like positive comments on how it was like impacting his fans and like likes and stuff like that, it kind of motivated him to keep doing that. And then after like a certain amount of time, it was just like part of who he was. And he just like kept going.
So I think it becomes a habit at that point, right?
Right,
exactly. You don't even have to think about it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So for you guys, I know for me, the question is, do you guys, like, let's just say you have, let me give an example. You want to create a discipline of running every day. Now, for you guys, do you guys think that you're the type of person to be like, so like when you start, you're gonna start, hey, I'm gonna start by running like every day, versus me who starts off by doing it very like a small goal. So my goal would be like, hey, you need to run at least one time a week, and then eventually keep gradually going on, because it's kind of like what Jason said. You're gonna become so unmotivated because of this big overwhelming task of running every single day, versus breaking it down and saying, hey, like it's just only one day now, and then eventually gradually growing. Like for me, I know that's like that's
Yeah.
the type of like way I want to go.
And I really think that a big part of that is like the satisfaction that you get like when you complete the goal that you set for yourself. I feel like that's also like a part of your motivation to like keep going. And when you have like a really big goal that seems like so unattainable, it can just lead you to like lose your motivation. But like if you're accomplishing things like one at a time and getting through it, like you can really achieve that big goal.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing is like, as you keep on going on with like consistency and discipline, it eventually starts to become part of your identity. So like when you're running for like one day, then you might not call yourself a runner, but after you've been running every day for like a month, or even if you've been running like 3 times a week for a month, you've been doing that consistently, and it becomes a part of your identity, who you are. And now like when people talk to you, you go, yeah, I'm a runner, so I run. So
Exactly.
for you to not run would almost be, it would make less sense.
It's like
for you
losing
to
a
not
part
run.
of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
We have a few questions to answer. Someone added on to the discipline thing. It says, do you think that discipline is affected by your environment? I have usually noticed that with a change of environment, I'm able to be more efficient.
Wait, is he talking about environment in terms of like the workplace, or like the people around you?
I think like the people around.
People around you?
That's what I.
Yeah, probably.
I think like one of the important aspects.
Clarify your question.
Oh yeah, there you go. That'd be good. Justin Lin also made
Yeah, so Justin Lin said that how are you guys building systems and workflows to make work easier and keep yourself accountable? So I think sometime around like January, February, or March, I began like building a schedule for myself and like dividing it up in ways where it's like a bunch of small victories, right? A bunch of small victories for you to build mental toughness. And
Exactly.
For me, that was waking up at 4 and going to the gym, right? So that's a small victory in your day. And once you do that, it's like, man, I've already done this. Like, let's like keep it up. Let's like not like lose myself, you know? Let's keep it going. And so as that like builds up every single day, for you to not do that, it's gonna feel evil. You're gonna feel evil skipping a day going to the gym. You're gonna feel evil like not doing your homework in time where you designated. It's like kind of losing your way, kind of like Ethan was talking about. So, yeah.
And going off of your like what you talked about, like, oh, I woke up at 4, that's a goal I myself that I should be happy about. It's like, I don't do this, as you can see in the background, but making your bed. Like, to be honest, I really never got that, but like hearing other people say like, hey, starting off your day with with you finishing a goal, it's gonna allow you to, regardless of whether you're motivated, tired, whatever, starting that goal is gonna give you the satisfaction of, hey, I want this satisfaction feeling over and over again. So let me just continue to accomplish the goals I have today.
Yeah, it's like setting the tone for accountability, where you're telling yourself that you're gonna do this and you're actually gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're setting the tone for all the decisions and actions that you're gonna do throughout the day. And it's like one thing that Richard Yu says. It's like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So how you make your bed, you say you're gonna make your bed, and you actually do it. How you do that is how you're gonna work out. You say you're gonna work out, then you do it. And how you do that is how you do homework, how you practice in volleyball. You say you're gonna work hard, and you're gonna do it. It's setting the tone for accountability, and efficiency.
One thing that I found works for me is like actually like writing stuff down, writing your goals down to keep you accountable. So like a lot of the times I feel like when I have the goal just in my head, like even though I know what the goal is, okay, I'm gonna go to sleep early every night, it's hard to take it from my head and make it a reality. But when I write it out and say like, okay, every night I'm gonna sleep by 11, then it's almost like a binding contract, or like there's this physical reminder here. I dropped the whiteboard. I actually wrote down on a whiteboard like, no YouTube until after I work out, because I found out that working like YouTube makes me procrastinate on actually working out for like a whole hour. So,
For sure.
and that's what I found that worked for me.
Okay, going off of like Jason, what you said about Richard Yu. Wait, that one, like, how you do one thing is how you do everything. When I heard him say that, because like I watched that video too, for me, it was very controversial because I didn't know whether to agree or disagree, because going back to what like Gary Vee said about the laziness from because you don't want to do it.
Mhm.
Let's just say, like, for example, one thing like homework versus, I don't know, like freaking like playing, no, not playing games, like, I don't know, like something you're actually passionate about.
Mhm.
Doing your homework, you're like, you may not be as disciplined because that's just because you don't like to do it.
Yeah, for
Versus
sure.
like, and like that lack of discipline, you're gonna think under his logic that, oh, that means that whatever passion you're gonna do, you're not gonna have success because you're not gonna have discipline on it. But I feel like there's I think it's a limitation to the actual, like, what he says, because like it also, like, passion has to play a big part into
Yeah, for sure.
what you're doing.
I think it's to the point where when it becomes a commitment, or what Richard calls a non-negotiable, if something is a non-negotiable, it doesn't matter whether or not you want to do it. It's that you have to do it, and you cannot
I
negotiate.
get you.
Right?
I get you.
And so, at least to the point where something becomes a non-negotiable for you, you would want your discipline for that non-negotiable to be at its highest level of productivity. And so, even though it may not like be as close as to something that you're truly passionate about, your goal is to try and get the productivity for that non-negotiable to be as high as possible. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's just basically trying to build your self-discipline.
Mm-hmm. So, I actually have a question. If we're done, if we're done talking about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So for me, if you guys didn't know, I am trying to make some TikToks, trying to make some videos, trying to produce any content as possible.
I've been
And that's it. Hey, yo, thanks, man. I respect it. I respect the follows. And to be honest, if I'm gonna be honest, I suck at. I'm pretty bad at it, because every single time I try to like make a video on TikTok, whatever, the moment while I'm recording, when I'm trying to edit it, when I'm thinking about how I should structure it, I'm always overthinking it. Will people like it?
Mhm.
Is it gonna be perfect? Is it blah 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 blah? Is it gonna get a lot of views? All this stuff, and like, let's just say like, oh man, I want to make this video on mental health. I'm so hyped for it. But then once I start doing it, I'm like, but what if they don't like it? And it starts unmotivating me. Like, how do I get out of that mindset? Because like I heard Gary Vee, I think he says, like, regarding that, it's like literally just like stop overthinking it, because like I think eventually, if you, with more practice, of course, with anything, you're gonna get better at it. But it's just so hard for me to get that inside my mind. Like, I think it's like, it also, into like a broader terms, like, how do you get stuff you listen to actually inside your head, which is like things that are so hard to, like, that are so against what you're used to doing.
I think you have to, like, for the latter part of what you said, kind of like developing like a personal code that you go back to every now and then, because you're not going to remember it throughout the day. But if you read it consistently, it's going to go back into your brain. And so it's applying it in the smallest forms possible, and then those forms like greater in like depth and like intensity. And so you're conditioning your mind to perceiving things a certain way, going about things a certain way, kind of like being proactive instead of being reactive. You want to think of things in a way where you can control things and not worry about the things that you can control, and like not have things affect you when you get angry. So like maybe like a few times when you start like getting angry, you're gonna tell yourself like, hey, don't get angry. It's not productive. You're not doing anything. So the more you tell yourself that, like, more productive you're gonna get with that, right? And then for making those TikToks, I mean, I feel like you have to go back to like the reason why you're doing it, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you making these TikToks? Is it to get a lot of views, or is it because maybe you'll reach out to a single person that was in the position where you were before, and you seeing that back then would have helped you a ton. So I guess it's just going back to the reason why you're doing it. You know, it's like not to get a lot of views, it's to just impact people. No matter like if it's one, if it's 1,000, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mhm.
and I think that like the motive behind what you're doing something can apply to like a lot of different things. So like, for example, I know that Ethan brought this up where he said that at Oxford, the culture is to that you pay attention in a class to do well on the test and get a good grade rather than actually like learn something. So I think that like your motivation can like completely make or break like what you can really get out of like an experience or like anything in general.
Yeah. Yeah, another thing that we talk about in the unconventional norms is like how to deal with failures. And I think that even plays a part in it, because a lot of the times when we don't want to do something, or like when we procrastinate, when we stop pursuing our goals, it's because we think we're not good enough. We think like, why would I do this if I'm probably going to fail in the end? But part of that dealing with failures is rewiring the mindset. Like, even if no one sees my TikTok, it's not a failure because I put it out there, and I can deconstruct it. I can say, okay, now I know what doesn't reach people. I can see like what I did wrong. You're not taking a step backwards if it's not successful. You're not taking a step backwards. You're still taking half a step forward.
Yeah, I get you. I think one thing that the reason why we are like going off of what you said, unmotivated because we don't want to fail. I think a really big part that kind of stems from this like mindset is the idea that we want short-term success. We want success overnight. Okay, I think it's the idea of like a fixed mindset too, and like comparing ourselves to other people. Like so many things, like really, like it's a root of so many different problems, in my opinion. Like for example, going off of comparing ourselves to other people, we see okay, so like for when I was in basketball, I was like at Trung, Aaron, Bochos, Jason, like all my friends, right? And they'd be good at basketball, but I wouldn't, right? But I totally forget how much work they put in. They literally started when they were 6th grade, 5th grade, even younger probably. When I started when I was in 7th grade and I was a ball boy. Yeah. But it's forgetting the amount of work that it took. But I just want success like that. Like, yeah, I think that's something that we always forget. Like Gary Vee, he always talks about how if you're 40, you're young as hell. Like he keeps saying that, like, we have like so much, like we're freaking young as heck. And we always forget that we want success. Oh, we need to be successful when we're 20. We need to find a job when we're 20. But like, it's like, no, we don't. Like, we just need to continue learning because we have so much time. Like, we have so much time. We're so young right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, everything's just the way you look at it and what you take away from it. Like, again.
Stop the cord down this, bro.
I think Justin had a question beforehand. He said, how do you guys plan to make hybrid learning great for students?
Oh.
What is hybrid learning?
So that's the schedule they want to implement in fall. So we're going to go to school 2 times a week, and then the other 3 are going to be online. So that's the hybrid thing we're going to do.
But I don't understand. Wait, sorry, you go. Wait, what'd you say, Josh?
I heard that the 2 days we're going to go to school, it's like half the students go to school, and it's only for like 3 or 4 hours or something. Is that right, Trump? Do you know?
That's all I know. I think it's like a staggered.
Right.
Oh, I get you. Staggered attendance. Like, the thing is, like already in all our minds, I think all of us, when we heard that it's hybrid, it's going back to what I think about, like, how we don't like change. Okay, like, hear me out. Like, when we hear it, we're going to think, it's not going to go well. It's blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's because it's different, and it's like, and we always want to see the negative out of it. And it's going to be extremely hard to kind of, because we're like, everybody, or as much as people who's listening, are just going to have to always see the positive. We can always look at the negatives, but it's very hard to look at the positives of these things.
I feel like it is what you make out of it. And if you're already going into it with the mindset that it's not going to work, then it's not going to work, obviously. You know, they're definitely not considering the value that they could, like, gosh.
Yeah. Throw those away. Throw those away, man. Throw those away, dude.
They're like playing the denial game instead of the believer's game, and that it could work. and that like whatever they're like going into, that they could achieve even like the smallest bit of value, and they should look forward to that. They're instead like already looking at it, it's like not going to work. There's nothing I can gain from this.
Exactly.
I think it goes into the hype thing that we talked about too. It's like, even if everyone else starts saying like, man, this hybrid learning is gonna suck, it's bad, it's no good, then it's our job to, like, even though other people are saying it, it's our job to keep saying like, no, this is good, this could work, there's benefits to it.
Kinda
And
like,
eventually that could catch on. Eventually the tables might get flipped, and then we'll all be able to see it in a positive light.
Yeah, like
I
being
think
genuine, thinking for yourself, being honest with yourself, you know. Yeah.
I think if we view it as a step closer to going to school 5 days a week. So like we went from canceled school to 2 times a week, and then move on to, and so we have to make the most out of our time on campus, interacting with our friends and stuff, and we can look forward to those 2 days, and then we can just keep that going, I guess.
Jason, let's make a compilation of how many times Josh brings up the Cornell notes, okay? Let's just make a video off of that. Oh, and these snippets are gonna be kind of hard because we go off topic a lot of times. It's gonna be kind of tough.
It's okay, we got a new editor.
Chung.
I feel like society always puts so much unnecessary stress sometimes. Like, I feel the culture of Oxford especially is the epitome of this.
What does epitome mean?
It's like the
perfect
prime example of it.
It's the perfect example.
Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like society nowadays, especially with more like social connection and like social media and stuff, like one like external but totally unnecessary stress is that of comparison between other people and validation from other people. You know? Like Justin Lin brought up, like in the other one, there's like your self-perceived value is like tied to the validation from your peers, right? And I feel like that's like further exacerbated by there being social media, you know? Because if you go on like things like TikTok and stuff, things that not to like throw shade or like call out or anything, but a lot of things that I feel like people really blow up for, like on TikTok, or like get a lot of validation for, it's a lot of arbitrary stuff. It's looks. It's like, oh, how many like DMs can I get? It's like things that are really arbitrary but matter so much now, and put so much external stress on people for how they are now when they're young, but it really won't matter in like 5 years, 10 years time. And that's like an external stress, a factor that is so unnecessary. And I feel like people really need to open their eyes when it comes to
that. Wait, can you expand more into that? Because I don't really get it.
Oh.
What do you mean? Oh, Ethan, yeah.
So when Jason was talking, it also reminded me of like the earlier when he said like the small fish in the big pond. So like if we're already comparing ourselves within Oxford, now that we have like, if Oxford's a big pond, social media and the internet, it's like a giant ass pond.
Yeah.
Like, we get to see every fish in the world.
It's an ocean.
Yeah. So there's so much comparison on social media because now we're seeing the biggest fish out there because we're seeing every fish out there.
Yeah, and it's like hard to stray away from that mindset, especially because if we grow up in that generation, that's kind of like what's already in our heads. You just gotta. I feel like social media, it's like really become like what it like wasn't meant to be, but now social media is what it is. And so you kind of have to avoid that and think back to the reason, why are you using social media and what is it actually for now? And so if it's just to connect with others and like share, like that's cool. But is it so you can put out things to make yourself feel better and like, or like become and like fit in, like know more? And yeah, like that's not why you want to be on.
I'm going to talk about, okay, so if you guys didn't see my like last TikTok, it was like reacting to like what Gary Vee says. So he said that I think the reason why we react so negatively on negative comments is because we overvalue positive comments. Like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, so I definitely feel like no, yeah, that's very interesting.
So for me, I think that man, what did I say in the video? I think the way I look at it is that, oh yeah, okay, so I'm reading this book. It's called 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem. To be honest, I don't like it. It's super boring to me, but I'm going to try to read it. But the first thing that it says is to find self-esteem, you can't look at it you can't try to find it in other people, or you can't like buy validation of like what you guys are saying. And I think like that's what we do. That's the thing. Like even like unconsciously or subconsciously, actually, we always when we post something, we feel the need in order for something to be good for likes, comments, positive comments. Those are the things that show whether something is good because those are like the positive things that we need that we base our self-esteem on. And then when we see a negative comment, of course, it's going to lower our self-esteem down because positive comments boost our self-esteem rather than finding self-esteem within ourselves that whether it's positive or negative, we have our own view on our self-esteem, regardless like whether or not we get positive or negative feedback.
And I think that like the repercussions of what other people say are like starting to develop like more and more of like a position in how you feel about yourself. Because like a couple of years ago when like social media wasn't so prevalent or like it's like I wasn't so involved in it, I never felt like the need to be like validated by everyone else. But like seeing social media and like other people, it like makes you like kind of like need that for yourself. And I think that that's like kind of the toxic culture that social media has created.
Yeah.
So do you think that kind of culture is growing because social media is growing or because we're getting older?
Well, I think it might be because it's like, okay, I think it's like a vicious cycle. So suppose like you're a creator, right? You put out a video and you get a lot of like great positive feedback on it. It makes you feel great about yourself, right?
Yeah.
You're going to continue to put out positive feedback on other people's content, right? So that just keeps going. And then when someone who hasn't received that positive feedback sees other people receiving the positive feedback, it can be really like detrimental to see that, like having not received it. You kind of get what I'm saying?
I get you.
Yeah, like it could like develop an insecurity in the way that you see people that are, you know, doing better than you, and you kind of like compare yourself. So it like makes you feel like worse about yourself. So you feel more inclined to send out like, I guess, negative feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to what Chow was saying, how you have to root your self-esteem in like your own identity, not in other people. Otherwise, it's going to be easily shaken when other people say other things.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon and I said something about FOMO for social media. So it's like the fear of missing out and looking. And so he sneakily got social media because he felt like he was missing out on a lot of things that are happening online. And oh my God, that is so true. That is facts for like if you're a 7th grader, 8th grader, and I feel like that's a lot of the reason why people stay on social media now is they don't want to miss out. I found myself doing that recently because like I say like back in December, I like uninstalled TikTok because I was like, man, I'm being so unproductive. I keep going on this app, and then like I think like Trung or something like I joke with another person about a trend that was on TikTok. It was like, hey, what's that from, bro? It was like, TikTok. Like, I downloaded it that night, man. For sure.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Oh my goodness. I keep forgetting what I'm going to say. Oh my goodness gracious.
This would be a really interesting thing to bring Justin Lin on because of his Gen Z podcast. Social media is a huge part of Gen Z. So yeah, he knows a lot about this. I mean, like he's commenting a bunch of things. Cancel culture, creating content that body shames regardless of gender, or like toxic jokes. It feels like shock value has something to do with this. Wow.
That's a big question right there.
Yeah, cancel culture. I feel like people also become so like.
What's the cancel culture?
Or like, so like when someone like does something that is to society's core values considered like immoral or like not aligning with the intentions and priorities of a good society, they like cancel them. It's like, nah, you're done, bro. Like you're a bad person. Like no one go watch this person's content or anything like that.
It's like what you. Oh, it's like what? No, never mind. It's like what you showed on our group chat with like the Michael Porter Jr. Right? No.
So like for example, so like say if there was like a person on TikTok, like here's an example, like there was a guy named like Lil Huddy, right? So like he was popping off, and then like he said the N word, and everyone's like, oh no, man, like no one. So like everyone started taking him, and like it's like canceling people.
Mm.
I also saw this really interesting thing. It was like, so there's this Sean Freud principle, right? So it's like, why do you laugh when people like get punched or like suffer pain? It's because when you see someone like doing well and then like them suddenly like suffering, it's like satisfactory to yourself in a way. I don't know. It's really interesting, but I thought that like could be applied because like maybe you have someone that's doing so well on like social media and that has such a greater following to you, and like you consider them like more valuable to this arbitrary metric of followers, and then like you see them crash and that feels good to you, so that's why you cancel other people.
Is it tied to the idea of like how we compare people? When we compare people, we get jealous of them instead of seeing them as inspiring people. Like, oh my goodness, like dude, like I should. So basically, seeing people's victories when someone else like wins, seeing it as, oh man, and I'm so jealous of them.
Right?
And I think
sure.
That's a big part of Oxford too, because you see other people making like really big like successes and doing really well and like things they're passionate about. And I feel like because of the toxic culture, it kind of feels like oh, like they did that, but like I didn't do it. So you see the negative in it rather than seeing like the good thing that they did. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're being reactive. You're being reactive, and
right.
You put the blame on them for being good instead of looking at yourself saying, what am I doing to achieve that, to be proactive, to maybe put in the work to be as good as Trung and Jason at basketball. You know what I mean?
Ties in with what Justin said about like because like you see someone doing that and then you start to compare yourself. So
I think another thing is because of this culture, we are scared to celebrate our victories publicly.
Right.
Like for example, I hate to put him on the spot, but Leo gets so much hate for celebrating his victories, and maybe it's because I don't know, but like he gets hate, and I know for me, I'm very, very hesitant on if I get like a good score in math or something. I'm very hesitant on celebrating it because I don't want people to be jealous of me, because I know that in the past I'm jealous of other people. But like going out, like when I read this book in like the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem, it says that we have the right to celebrate our victories. Like we do. Like we should not be afraid, or we should not be like, oh man, but if we celebrate too publicly, people are gonna get jealous. Like we shouldn't be afraid of it. We have the right as like to celebrate our victories like in some way. But like I know for me, like I'm very comfortable with celebrating it, very nonchalant. I don't know if that's the right word, but like very low key.
I think it's the way you present it too, because if you come off as arrogant and cocky, then people are gonna not like it. They're gonna reject it. But it depends on how you do it, and then I think if you do it the correct way, people will come and support you and congratulate you in the comments. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's important for you to view or to when you celebrate, you like view the victory as something like for yourself and your own goals, instead of like viewing the victory as a much greater victory compared to this person's victory.
And I
so it's like, oh, I got 100 and you got a 96, or it's like I got 100 and I'm proud I got 100 because I worked hard for it.
And I think that when you said that like your victory is like in comparison to another person, I think that's a large part of like what Oxford culture is, right? Because I feel like there's a large stigma in like celebrating your successes, because people can see it as
one-upping.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're not celebrating it for yourself, but you're celebrating it to show other people that you're better than them.
For sure.
I have a question. So for me, it feels easier to celebrate someone else's success when it's in like sports or FBLA. Like I'm in the JV team when the varsity does well. I'm like, yeah, go! Like you guys are doing great. Or like FBLA when someone places well in an event, it's like, yeah, you're doing great. But like in school, if someone does better on me in a test, like why is it that it's harder to feel happy for them when they do well on a test and I did poorly?
Right, exactly. I completely agree with you.
Yeah, it's like you're placing them in like the opposite side, and you guys are like going against each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
For sure.
Huh.
That in a way is just like, I feel like there needs to be a change in mindset, because I feel like that's a fixed mindset, where
Like,
you're not trying to do all that you can for yourself, and you're trying to grow, and instead you're like viewing other people's victories as like,
And I think going back to like Justin's, like the question we like answered from Justin about how do we change that culture, and it was hard for us because the only way we can do it is long term. There's no way we can do it short term. And I think that's what scares a lot of us, is because like it's gonna take so much work that we become unmotivated to do it. This is an example. Like for example, like ASP advisors, I remember the before, like they kept kind of hating how our culture, it's like if we want to go to Hoka, right? Not the fact of how we want to celebrate our sport teams, right? It's more of like, oh, what incentive am I gonna get by going there, right? And the thing is that like that's our culture, and like it sucks, but that's it. And like I think in order to get more people to actually go to these events, we have to start providing more incentives so that they are able to at least go one time to enjoy it, so that later we don't have to do more incentives, because they will want to go without incentives, because they're going to finally experience it and see what the hype's all about. Like, oh man, I don't want to like once you go to Hoka, like, oh man, that was actually pretty fun, dude. So like, I don't need incentives. Like let's just go, because like that was so fun. I just want to experience that again. Yeah.
And I think that ties back into what we said at the beginning of the episode with seeing things as a waste of time. So like during quarantine, everyone's had a lot of time on their hands, and what Ethan said about like seeing you relaxing as like wasting time. So I think that when you feel like you're not really getting something out of it, that's just something that's like your mindset, because you definitely, like, it's for the experience. You're gonna get something out of it,
Yeah.
So then, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like a lot of people at Oxford are only in it for themselves. So like the example you gave with the Hoko, the question is like, what's in it for me? But in reality, we should be banding together because we're one school, we're one team, and we should be there to support each other, and that should be what draws people in, right?
But the thing is that I feel like regardless, we all have some selfishness.
Yeah.
Like we all need something in return. Like for example, like I remember it was like a T with Gary V question. This guy that was talking to Gary was, I think, a nonprofit fundraising commissioner, right? And he was like, hey, Gary, how do I create fundraisers that are more appealing to other people? And he said, the only thing that you need to do is ask the question, what can I do for you? Like, not forget about the fundraiser. What can I do for you? And once you do that, and once you provide value for him, you're going to create a catch connection with that one person, right? And in response, he's going to be like, oh man, he provided value for me, so I'm going to provide value for them in return. And then of course, then word of mouth continues and organic reach continues to expand. Yeah. I remember in our group chat, Jason brought up a good point because it was like this snippet from Gary. He was talking about how he, in specific, really he cannot respect or acknowledge his weaknesses. He can only focus on his strengths. And Jason brought up a very, very good point. He was like, but he kind of disagrees, because he was like, hey, but there's some value in looking at our weaknesses, because without acknowledging or providing awareness for our weaknesses, something's in my eye, owie, then how are we supposed to like make it into our strength? And then I kind of responded, and I was like I agree with you, Jason, but I think he's mainly saying that because he's directing towards those people like me, who look at our weaknesses, and that's a waste of time. Like they're like, oh man, like why am I so ass at this? Why am I so ass at that? It's just a waste of time. I think he's saying it because of that. Like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so I didn't really feel like he was really making the point about, like dwelling on your weaknesses and then not doing anything to change it. you know, and also like kind of like the fact that people always look at the bad first instead of looking at the good. But Gary's like, look at the good first, you know, and people always think like, oh yeah, there's so much like bad than like good, but I'd say like 99% of situations there's usually more good than bad. So I guess he's challenging people to look more at like the good and the strengths instead of like the bad and the weaknesses, and like stop dwelling and like start like controlling what you can control and start doing to achieve, you know. But, yeah.
I think you bring a very, very good point of controlling what you can control. Like, for example, I think we always find the negatives of like, hey, we have a pretty ass culture. Okay, so we can't fix that automatically, right? So what can we do? Like what? And I feel like with that, I feel like especially in ASB, we're like, oh man, it's an ass culture. So you know what? It makes sense that nobody goes to lunch activities. It makes sense that blah 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 blah. But the real reason is because we become so unmotivated by the fact of how we have a bad culture that we don't, as ASU members or whatever, don't put in the effort to like go out and get more people because we're already so unmotivated at the start.
So like you stop becoming solution driven. And so I remember one interesting thing that I heard from Grace Kim from Jaime Kim Foundation. She said, change your corner of the world, right? And then like eventually the world will follow. And so I thought that was like really interesting because like wouldn't you want to instead shoot for changing like the entire world instead of just changing like a corner of it? But I think the principle in that was that it's going to take small steps and you can't change everything like instantly over time. It's going to take small steps and it's going to take hard work. And so when you're controlling what you can control, obviously if I go out and I post something, or like if I'm like going out to the street and I'm like, or I'm like literally trying to change every single person's mind, it's not going to work because I don't have that much influence over every single person in the world. Now, what I can do is someone that I do already have a lot of trust and influence with, I change their mind. And maybe they can go change another person's mind. And those people can change the other person's mind. And so it's changing like, you're changing a small corner and like eventually it's going to spread instead of trying to like deal with like a massive problem that you literally have no control over because you're just not capable. You don't have the influence yet.
And I think that example just covered setting small goals and achieving them, having like an open mindset, organic interaction is the way to create change. And like everything we just talked about was just completely summed up into that. So
change.
So and so the opposite of that would be like I guess in a way complaining, because you have to every time you try and do something and have an impact like that, you have to evaluate like the probability of it actually happening. And if it's like really low or if it's like impossible, like you can't control it. If you keep trying, you're controlling something that you cannot control, you know? And so instead you have to like really build up into like the easy means to justify the kind of intentions that you already have. And then like eventually it's going to build up.
You know, this might be off topic, but you know, one thing I'm going to try doing when we of course get back to school is when people talk negative about like Oxford, right? Like I'm going to try my best to be, because I am not good at confrontation. Yeah,
you got it.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Thank you, man. But like when people were to say like, oh man, Oxford culture is like is ass or something, right? I'd be like, hey, like let's look at the opposite side. Let's be grateful for the fact of how we have teachers and like we have these little small things that we take for granted. Like some schools are not fortunate enough to have textbooks, like textbooks for every student, but we do. Like these small things we should be grateful for.
Yeah, and
like we have we have to take a step back and like.
And I think it's a stigma in itself that Oxford has a bad culture. Like that's a stigma itself.
Yeah, for sure. So like people already like kind of adopt that mindset that Oxford has a bad culture without actually experiencing what it was that they thought was bad culture.
So that gives you no reason to kind of want to like change. Yeah. It just like you accept it.
And like it's just like this whole like mob mentality thing, and it's this whole like ecosystem that kind of like supports and justifies more problems that like feed into like this whole.
And the explanation for all of it is just that Oxford has a bad culture.
It's a very subjective thing too. Like that's purely opinion that Oxford has a bad culture. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Like I think one example is like I went to Oxford in the 7th grade. I was in love with Oxford even before I was in the school because my brother went to Oxford. I'd go to all his games. I'd walk around. I was like, man, I can't wait to be here, bro. And then like it eventually started like dying. Like what?
Bro, stop.
Josh.
You tripping, bro. Dude.
That love for the school eventually started dying. Why? Word of mouth. People were telling me they didn't like the school. Older people were telling me they didn't like the school. I didn't experience it for myself. But these people have influence over me, being veterans at the school, being older than me, so I adopt their mindset without actually thinking for myself. So I think one step to igniting change is to encourage people that they should really start, thinking for themselves, truly experience everything without a biased mind, and like really try and take as much value as you can from everything as possible.
And it's so hard. It's so hard to do, and so easy to talk about.
Yeah, so hard, honestly.
So hard to do.
It takes a lot of awareness, and yeah, it takes a lot of awareness. Takes a lot of constant reflecting and contemplation on like the situation that you're in and stuff. So yeah.
Wait, so are we making it worse when we keep talking about how there's all these negative pressures at Oxford? Because we keep talking about the negative pressures, the negative pressures, the negative
Yeah,
pressures.
No, in a way we are. But in a way, I think we're all actually spreading awareness to this podcast, right? Some people can't even identify the problem in the first place. We're at least identifying the problem. So the next step for us and for people listening to our podcast is to actually take the things we're thinking about, talking about. We're talking about reactivity. We're talking about comparing each other. We have to implement that to other people. Like, okay, after this podcast, we have to keep ourselves accountable to go to school and actually do the things we said. We have to talk. We have to walk the walk. We have to walk the walk. Exactly.
And the only way to drive the change is if you identify what the problem is. So if you know what the problem is, you can't work towards the solution. So by raising awareness to like what the issues are and what the stigmas are, we're allowing people to like take the journey to solution.
So Justin Liu was mentioning, he said like, awareness is like the first step to change, because, like if you can't recognize a problem, then you cannot recognize a solution, because people aren't going to know what to fix because they don't like
exactly
know the problem.
And drive the change.
Jason, you should be a therapist. No cap.
What are you talking about?
You should be a therapist, my dog.
No. I'm like
135.
You should show up in our episodes more, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, no, not gonna lie, dude. Not gonna lie, like this is fun. Like I thought we were gonna end at 4. That was low-key sad because I wanted to keep talking more.
Dude, this is fun. Yeah.
So like when Chow kept talking, you're like, okay, so we're gonna keep going. This is lit. Yeah.
Dude, okay. Let me ask you guys. So this is about mental health. Do you guys think that going to a therapist makes you weak?
No.
Nope.
No, but I know it's like extremely stigmatized, and in a way, like when you go see a therapist, like you think to yourself, it's like, I lost the fight, I lost the fight. Like look at me, like I'm like worse than my peers because I have to go see a therapist.
That's just the beginning of the uphill battle, though. That's how you're like cultivating like your want to change what you've identified.
I think we might not see it as a sign of weakness, but I think a lot of parents do see it as a sign of weakness, because that's how their generation's culture was. And so sometimes like it's not a defeat in our eyes, but it's a defeat in their eyes. So some parents might not let their kids go to therapy because they think it makes their kids weak.
Yeah, I know a few people who have like parents that are that like that, and it literally pisses me off so much.
Yeah, it's like talking about these things are like so taboo, like especially among traditional parents. And yeah, Justin Lin said, "I think it makes you stronger because you're strong enough to recognize your issues."
Right.
That is
going to a therapist, like that's like kind of so. First, when you go to a therapist, like you think like you're dealing with a problem and like the problem just beats you. Like, no, you're just dealing with the symptom right now. You're dealing with the symptom of the problems that are like, that's like the pain and the sadness you feel. So going to the therapist is actually you trying to increase your awareness of the own problem, like that ecosystem in your head that's justifying that and like causing the symptoms of like sadness and like loneliness and things like that. But really, going to the therapist is increasing your awareness of like those problems.
And I
Shout
think
out.
Mhm.
I think therapy is step one of working towards change instead of suppressing what you're feeling. Because if you're not willing to like open up and like realize what's going on, then there's no way for you to make that change.
Mm-hmm. And another thing is when therapy, therapy, literally every single person in Oxford, every single person in general should go to therapy, because it's not something that, oh, you only need to go if you have mental health problems. No, anyone can go to it if you just want to improve, I don't know, your confidence, which may be a mental health thing, but not seriously like what people think, like, oh, you need to like have like go through depression, go through anxiety to be able to need to go to a therapist. No, you don't. I like lately I've been doing very well. I'm like pretty recovered from my depression. I literally asked my therapist, hey, I don't think we need to talk about like depression more to say. It's more about me. Hey, I need to gain more confidence for myself, for my benefit in this world. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a
feel like
therapist
it
is
could
just.
be like, oh, sorry, go.
I think a therapist is just another person to talk to. Like your friends could be your therapist. You don't have to label them as a therapist. Like your friends help you through your problems, help recognize your problems, and they can also offer advice. So you can just refer to a friend, a parent, anyone, dude.
It's like encouraging like that like habitual reflection and contemplation that will like help you recognize things a lot sooner and like have a more refined understanding of like everything in life. And it's a habit that you really should practice. So like, yeah, I feel like everyone should go to a therapist if you just want to be better in any aspect, any way, shape, or form. Like, if like there's something to work on, like think about it, talk about it. Going to a therapist, that's what it is. Thinking about it and talking about it, and that's gonna like really help you in your journey to just become better in any way. I feel like it's really important.
It's almost absurd to see therapy as a sign of weakness. That's almost like saying, like, if like that's almost like saying going to a teacher for math makes you weak at math, or like going to like having a coach for running makes you weak at running. That's not how it works. You go to a coach with running if you want to improve at running. You have a teacher because you want to learn, you want to grow, and it's the same thing with therapy. It's
like going to a doctor when you're sick.
Yeah.
You're weak.
Exactly. It's just highly stigmatized. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
I was gonna say something.
Very interesting.
Oh my goodness. I forgot it.
Any more questions in the chat? Anyone at all? Bring it up.
Are we gonna wrap up now, or?
I feel like I forgot the question.
Let's just wait till Sal gets his thing, and then we can like wrap it up from there.
So it's just gonna be awkward silence until I forgot my question.
Yeah, all the pressure's on you.
No pressure. That's what our podcast is about.
Oh shoot, my fault. No pressure.
Yeah. Shut up, Chang. I'm kidding.
All of our encouragement is with you, Chow.
Oh yes, I got it. Okay, so I think it was okay. So for the A push civic action thingamababa, right?
Yeah.
I emailed the councilwoman of Orange County, and she responded back, and I was able to actually have a meeting with her, a Zoom call with her, and I think it was Kenny Lee who brought up a very, very good idea. You know how we do like eye checks and like fucking hearing checks and all that shit, like mandatory stuff? Do that for mental health. Like literally every single person has the opportunity to go to the therapist, and literally can just talk. And people might say, oh, what if I don't have like do you need anything to talk about? Okay, then don't talk about anything, say I'm fine. But it brings an opportunity for those that are afraid of actually going to a therapist and actually bring the therapist to them.
Yeah, I think that breaks the barrier for you, because I think that the biggest part of people not getting therapy is because they feel like all the stigma. So if you just bring them to the therapist like at the start, like you're already at step one.
Yeah.
You know how we have to do like a physical every year? Like if we want to be in sports, like what if we had to do like a mental checkup every year too?
Yes.
Like just to like get enrolled in school, or like basically everyone has to do it. I think that's an amazing idea.
It's a step into normalizing mental health. You know what I mean? And normalizing it and making it as important as the physical health.
Yeah.
And I feel like it is even more important than physical health, because without your mind, like you can't do physical, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like,
And improving physical health is a way to improve mental health.
True, they're connected.
and it goes the other way around too. I think improving your mental health can be a step towards improving your physical health as well.
Yeah.
Mind blowing, dude.
If you don't have one, there's no way you can have the other. So like we prioritize physical health so much, but like mental health is just as, or if not more important.
Like I was talking to also the councilwoman lady, and she talked about how they want to. I think it was on APUSH too. Like they want to pass a bill to like make mental health days, right? From like an excuse absence. That is so smart. When I saw that on like the list for APUSH, I was so happy because I skipped. Let me see how many days. So I skipped to 2 weeks, which is like 10 days. And then I skipped to probably another entirety of a month, but like in like different days. I think how we get to like the yellow sheets of like absences for Saturday school. I think I have 40 right now. it's kind of funny. But like the thing is that like I had to say, oh, I'm sick. But the thing is like most admin know about my condition, but it just sucks because like we have to lie that it's because we're sick, physically sick instead of mentally sick. Like that's so dumb, bro. Like, yeah.
I think the hardest part is we know that like mental health days off would be good, but a lot of the adults, like we said earlier, a lot of the adults still see like mental health treatment as a sign of weakness, which sucks.
Yeah.
Because then like a lot of parents might say, well, if my child has to take a day off because their head isn't in the right space, they're gonna say, no, you're not allowed to skip school because I mean, you guys get the idea.
Yeah.
I feel like as our like generation is kind of like more aware of it than previous ones, I feel like kind of like as we like all grow up and then like our generation is in like position of greater influence and power, then like that will like naturally like go into place more.
Yeah, Brandon, the one by like the AB thingamabobber, they said that they were going to like actually like postpone it because it's not a necessity right now, which makes sense because like they have more things like regarding Corona and all that stuff to figure out right now. But yeah. Is there anything else that you guys want to add? No.
We should do this more often.
Yeah.
The five of us. No guests.
What if we do like so we're gonna increase our things by like 2 a week, right?
And
then have
one interview.
No. What I'm thinking, so 2 people, like 2 interviews, right, with like other people. And because like doing this, it requires no preparation at all, mostly, right? It's just us talking. Just do it on like a Wednesday or something.
So
like do it in
every third episode or what?
Yeah, no. Like do
so like 3 episodes a week.
3 episodes per week. Because think about it, like this episode.
We can decide this after we wrap up and.
Yeah. Wait. Should I stop the live?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
All right. Okay, so for everyone who's watching, thank you guys for coming. And we will see you soon.
Really appreciate it.
Yes, we're gonna be on YouTube from now on. So like no more open Zoom calls. We're gonna live stream it here, so as many people can watch it as they want.
Thank you so much for coming out, Justin and Brandon, and someone else, Lukey, man. Really appreciate you guys coming out and having.
And guys, make sure to share this with like other people, like to your friends, family, whatever, because it's seriously gonna help them, and it's gonna be more fun.
It helped you, or if you feel like it could help anyone, it's important to share it. So yeah, people could take out the value.
Yeah.
One corner at a time. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Drive change.
All right. So see you guys.
Okay. Peace out, guys.